Hi, Kira here with Love Notions Sewing Patterns. Sometimes, depending on the garment you're sewing, you may not want to have visible thread on the right side of your fabric. With a hem, for example, you may want to do a blind hem instead of a traditional top stitch. In this video, I'll be demonstrating two different methods to sew a blind hem. One, using the blind hem foot on your sewing machine, and two, a catch stitch sewn with a needle and thread by hand. For this tutorial, I'll be using the Salt Whistle Top and Dress pattern by Love Notions Sewing Patterns. At this point, you should have your skirt pieces with the scalloped hem facing attached. Your scallops should be neatly pressed, and the top raw edges of your scalloped hem facing should be finished. I finished mine with a serger. If you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch on the edge. You can also use pinking shears, or you can simply fold 1/4 of an inch to the wrong side of the facing. Now I prefer to work from the right side of my skirt when doing my blind hem. We're going to treat the scalloped hem facing like any other hem that is folded up. What we're going to do is take the skirt pieces and we are going to fold it down until the folded edge meets the beginning of the serge, which is usually 1/4 inch from the edge. So it should look like this. Now, if you didn't serge and you just did a zigzag or you used pinking shears, you can go ahead and draw a line that is 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. Since I used the serger, I have a line there already that is a guide. So this is what your fabric should look like going all the way around. Now, to keep this in place, you have a few options. We can simply use pins and pin all around. You can run a basting stitch, maybe about a 1/4 inch or so from the edge, from the folded edge of the skirt. Run a basting stitch, catching all the layers all the way around the skirt. Or you can take this to the iron and press so that this fold will be very flat and neat. I'm going to use a combination of the iron and pins. So here I have my skirt piece laid out on the ironing board. We're going to fold the skirt down. There's my scalloped hem facing underneath. And we want the folded edge to butt right up against the beginning of that serge, which is 1/4 inch away from the edge of the scalloped hem facing. Here is a closer look at what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and take my iron to this now and give it a nice press. Make sure everything is nice and flat. Now I'm going to add some pins just for some extra security. The last thing you want is for your fabric to shift while doing a blind hem. Now we can take this to the sewing machine. So this is what the blind hem foot looks like. This is the one that came with my Brother CS6000i, and if you notice, there's this little guide bar that the fabric will run up against. I also have this one, which came in a multi-pack of feet that I got from Amazon, and this one is an adjustable blind hem foot. So as I screw this, you can see the gap getting wider, so you can actually adjust the guide bar that the fabric will run up against. For this tutorial, I will be using this one that came with my machine. If you're interested in learning more about sewing machine feet, we do have a post on the Love Notions blog, www.lovenotions.com, and we will make sure to link it in the description below. So this is what the symbol for the blind stitch looks like on my machine. You may have a similar one on your machine, or you can check your machine's manual to see which setting is for the blind stitch. So mine is number 9. And the recommended stitch width goes from 0 to 2. And the higher you go, the more your needle will move to the right. So on 0, your needle is more to the left. 1, it goes a little bit more to the right. And 2, it goes a little bit more to the right again. If you go further than 2, it is highly likely that the stitch will not catch the edge of the fold that you need it to catch. Again, the settings on your machine may be different, so make sure to check your machine's manual. Let's imagine that this is a pair of pants or a nice dress, and we folded up our hem 1 inch. We've also finished our hem. Remember, we're going to work from the right side, and we're going to fold our garment down until the folded edge is a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the hem. And in this case, I have the line of my serge to guide me. I've also pressed this with an iron to keep it laying nice and flat. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine. As you place your fabric under the presser foot, you want to make sure that the folded edge of your fabric runs right along this guide bar. And remember, I said that the higher you increase your stitch width, the closer to the right your needle moves. Right now it's on 0. Here's 1 and here's 2. And if you notice, as the needle moves, that determines how much of this folded edge is going to get caught. What the blind stitch does is it takes a few stitches, then it jumps over, catches just the folded edge in a single stitch, jumps back over, there's another few stitches, back over, catch just the edge of the folded edge, and so on. So where you place your needle, that is the stitch width that you choose, then determines how much of this folded edge is going to get caught in that single stitch that jumps over. So as you move closer to the left, more of the folded edge is going to get caught. And as you move closer to the right, less of the folded edge is going to get caught. That will determine how much thread is visible on the right side of your garment. For this demonstration, I'm going to leave my needle at 0. I'm also using contrasting thread, so you'll be able to see the stitches. However, for your garment, you want to use matching thread. Otherwise, that will defeat the purpose of doing a blind hem in the first place. I like to hand wheel at first, just to make sure the needle actually is catching the folded edge. And remember, you can always practice on scraps first. And now we are going to stitch. So here is what the stitches look like on the wrong side of the fabric. You can see it stitches along that serged portion of the hem and then jumps over for a single stitch every few stitches. Now let's have a look at the right side. And this is why it's called a blind hem, because all you see are these little dots of thread from the right side, although there are so many stitches on the wrong side. So now let's go ahead and try this on our actual skirt piece. It's helpful if you use your other hand to guide the fabric from behind. You're not pulling, you're not tugging, you are just helping the fabric to stay straight as it goes along this guide bar. So this is what it looks like on the wrong side of my skirt. It's going to be super hard to see the stitching because I did use matching thread. Now for the moment of truth, let's see what happened on the right side. There are my little tiny thread dots and the thread is matching. So once this is pressed, it will look nice and clean. Now it is super easy to miss some of the stitches. I'm trying to find if I missed any. It actually doesn't look like if I missed any. But if you do miss any, you can always go in with a hand needle and just pick up whatever stitch is missing so that it doesn't look uneven. I found one that I missed. So this one did not catch. So you can just go in with a hand needle and pick up that one stitch. If you find it stands out too much that it's missing, it looks great to me. So I'm going to go ahead and take this to the ironing board, give it a nice press, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Already you can see how much of a difference pressing makes. There are those tiny little dots instead of a hash line. And that's it for our blind hem by machine. Now we can move on to the catch stitch by hand. So now I'm going to show you how to do a catch stitch by hand. I have my needle and thread. I am using contrasting thread again, but remember you want to use matching thread for your actual garment. So we're using one layer of thread, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tie a knot. Here I have my fabric with 1 inch turned up as a hem and the edges finished. So again, we'll imagine that this is a nice dress. You're going to go ahead and thread your needle up through your fabric, just through the hem allowance. I'm going to go back again just to secure that knot. All right, now we can get started. You're going to take your thread and you're going to move it up at an angle. You're going to catch 2 or 3 threads, just a little bit of the fabric, and this is just on the garment itself, not the hem allowance. You're going to pull that through. And notice we're working from left to right. Now we're going to come down at a similar angle, like so. And you're going to pick up again a few threads. You can be a bit more lenient when you pick up threads because now we're only picking up from the hem allowance. Back up at another angle, and we're going to pick up 2 to 3 threads just from the garment. And down again through just the hem allowance. And you just repeat, going from left to right. And it starts to form this triangle pattern. You also want to make sure that you have a similar distance between each triangle, because you will see a few thread dots on the right side of the fabric, just like you would for a blind hem on a sewing machine. So you can replicate this on the saw whistle pattern. Your scalloped hem facing would be a long hair. This would be the raw edge of your scalloped hem facing. Let's have a look at the right side. So here you can see just those little thread dots, just like on the sewing machine. I actually find that I get more even dots by hand stitching. I hope this tutorial was simple and clear enough for you to understand. Doing a blind hem takes a lot of practice to get it just right. And call me old school, but I actually prefer doing the catch stitch by hand. I find hand stitching very therapeutic, and I just love the finish it gives to a garment. Until next time, happy sewing! Bye!